Good morning, Donut Friendly Nation. It was an early morning, and I got an email from one of my listeners, and it's a really good question, and a topic that we did on the live show a couple nights ago. You might be interested in the Mandela effect. How does that impact AI? There was a very good podcast that I had a chance to listen to that she pointed out. I'll bring it all to you in 15 seconds. Stick around. I'll see you on the other side.
Do you want the truth? Are you tired of being so confused? You feel like you're more f***ed up than the lies on the evening news. Well, just step right in. We can talk about it all as friends. And if you want, we can hug and kiss and make up.
Still points. STIILPOINT. The Mandela effect. What is it? What is it all about? Well, I'm here to tell you because that's what we do. Dan O'Donnell from iHeartRadio. I haven't actually heard his show. He is a stand-in for the show that is usually on. And I got to admit, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I know I do it, and I tell you all, hey, go listen to a podcast. I actually like the video. I like to see people's reactions, like to see who I'm listening to. And it's always so deceptive on radio because you imagine somebody in your head and then you see them and you're like, oh, wow, that person looks nothing like they sound. I would like to think I do, but most people tell me you sound nothing like I thought you look like. You look like a disheveled mess or a truck driver. Well, that kind of sums everything up. So it's interesting. A viewer, and you've got to bear with me because I'll be honest with you, this small print is killing me. I'm getting old. You know what? Screw it. Putting the glasses on. I'm done. You know what? I'm just here. I'll put it back to the sides, but let's just do it like that because now I can read it. Hello, Matt. Mandela effect with a period. And immediately I'm intrigued. Below is a link to a local radio show and channel I listen to from time to time. The man speaking is not Mark Bellin. It's Dan O'Donnell, who is filling in for him on his afternoon show. Just today, he talked about the Mandela effect and gave the exact same example you did on your show. I remember Olivia's response. Two independent thinkers thinking the same thing, question mark? Or something else. I'll let you decide. Well, we may be the same person. We haven't been in the same place. Or do we share a hive mind? I don't know. We're going to find out. I can answer that. Just thought it was odd that I would hear it from two unconnected people, as far as I know. Yes, as far as you do know. So it's interesting. Let's listen to it. And I always love getting these type of emails. It means the world to me because it helps me break up the monotony of politics. So let's listen to the segment. And then I'm going to try to go along at the same time. I've done a little research and then I'll add some things that will kind of put it in context. Here it is.
Reality itself now isn't real. Have you ever heard of the Mandela effect? The Mandela effect is named after, as you might imagine, Nelson Mandela. Tons of people had a vivid memory of Nelson Mandela dying in prison. What? He became president of South Africa. He clearly didn't die. He died many, many years later, and his funeral was upstaged by a fake sign language interpreter. Remember that one? Absolutely hilarious. The guy was just doing random movements with his hands. He was so theatric. Go watch on YouTube. Nelson Mandela sign language interpreter. It's one of the funniest things. So when you watch it and you realize that he's completely making it up. And this is a funeral watched by a billion people.
He must be a liberal.
It is a huge, huge thing.
Must be.
The Mandela effect refers to things that you think you remember but don't. That a lot of people think they remember but don't. For example, Fruit of the Loom underwear. Think of the logo. Are you picturing the logo in your head?
I am.
Was there ever a cornucopia on Fruit of the Loom underwear?
Nope.
There was not. No. I'll bet you 50% of the people listening to me right now saying, what are you talking about? Of course there was a cornucopia. There wasn't. It's an example of the Mandela effect. Curious George. Did Curious George ever have a tail? You know, the curious little monkey? Nope. Never had a tail.
Nope.
How about Looney Tunes?
This one I knew.
How do you spell it? How do you spell tunes in Looney Tunes?
There was
T-O-O.
there was no way as a child, after watching that for as many times as I did, that I was ever going to pick up or pretend or have the Mandela effect or create some priming effect where it was TOONS. And the reason why is whether it was Tiny Toons or we're tiny, we're toony, we're all a little loony, and whether Animaniacs or whatever. I loved cartoons. I used to draw them incessantly. So my mind doesn't have it doesn't have just auditory and visual learning, but it has contextual learning as I drew it out and copied the words. So therefore, it was never something that I failed to remember correctly. So when this one came up, I'm like, oh, it's TUNES. Of course it is. And that is why, because I've reinforced the possible filler in my brain and replaced it with something that was substantive that I could go back on. And confabulation didn't take place, which is filling in the gaps of information and data I didn't have. We'll talk about that in a second.
ONS? Nope. TUNES. Another example of the Mandela effect. Now what happens if the Mandela effect is actually altered by artificial intelligence so that your real memories, like 10 years from now, Paul, if God willing, we're still doing this. Actually, for you, God willing, you're not still doing this because you'll be at retirement age, but God willing, I'm still doing this. If I come back and we talk about this again, and hey, do you remember Alicia Keys at the 2024 Super Bowl? Do you remember her voice cracking? Well, let's go check it out. Her voice didn't crack. We'll both have a memory of her voice cracking, and it's going to be a real memory. But reality, as it's presented to us, is not going to reflect our real memories. Great question. I'll give
it's not only a great question, it's a fantastic question. If you haven't heard the episode, go listen to the Mark Bellin show and or Berlin or however he says it. I really, whatever. You're getting a plug, dude. It's free. And go listen on iHeart because it's actually really interesting. And I plan on listening more. And in my old age of being blind, sitting down and just listening to something in the background might be a little bit more appealing than watching a video. But it's interesting when I talked about the Mandela effect, the same exact examples we used on the show. Now, is it because that Mark and Dan and all of us, are just higher level thinkers and we are, adverse to these effects? No, we're not adverse to these effects. They can happen to us, and it's happened to me. And it reminds me of the blue dress and the gold dress and optical illusions and everything else. And some people are very, honed into, seeing things. It was remember those little paintings that they had with the different pictures and you would stare at it and then you would see a sailboat. I could never get my eye to relax enough or my brain to stop looking at the individuals to see the collectives. And there's people who think like that. There's people who see things one at a time and then put everything together. And then some people just see the whole entire forest. I'm more of an individual tree type of guy, but it doesn't mean that when I see the painting of the old hag or the dressed up lady side profile, you can see all of these, that I don't see both at sometimes and have trained my mind to see both. Everybody's different. And that is the reason why something like this is so profound and eerie, is because if everybody's different and we all have stimuli come into our brain in different ways and synapses fires in different ways, how can we all think the same thing? Let me give you some examples. We talked about confabulation and what that means. And I want you to think of a dream. Most people will have a dream and they'll wake up and be like, oh, that was a good dream. I was in a Battlestar Galactica chamber and I was flying around and I had everlasting gobstoppers from Willy Wonka's factory and I got to ride on a unicorn. And that was the greatest dream ever. And then I woke up and it sucked. And that dream lasted like 5 days in my head. But in all honesty, most dreams only last a few seconds. Some can last 5 minutes to 30 minutes. But when you enter REM and you start getting into the dreamlike state, your mind will play tricks on you. And you may not have information that you need in order to recollect or pull from your memory because it was all in creative and didn't take place and it's stored in a different area of your brain. But with that, I want you to think of a couple things. People have struggles in their dreams. For instance, I have a hard time flying. I'm the greatest American hero. I would love to just get up there and fly and zip around like Superman or Neo from the Matrix. But whenever I try to fly in my dream, I'm like the greatest American hero. I also sleep on my stomach, so my arms are sometimes underneath me or under my head. So I have a hard time boxing in my dreams. And when I try, if I have to get in a fight or something with somebody, I struggle. So it's interesting how real life stimuli can impact a dream state. But also think about this. Have you ever read anything in your dream? Because you can't. Just like they say, you can't die in your dream, because if you die in your dream, you die in real life. Well, it's probably because your mind will fill in the gaps. It'll fill in the stimuli that you're not physically feeling, but you're mentally seeing and hearing and experiencing it in your brain. So therefore, people believe that if you die in your dream, that you'll die in real life. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I will tell you that I've never read anything in my dreams. And when I try to read a book or recite phrases, I can't. But there are people who say with photographic memories that they can, because they remember the context of the words. So it's an interesting thing when you put this together with dreams, how the brain will trick you. But let me give you some other examples. Priming is also another situation where information can be inserted based upon third-party sources or anecdotal evidence. And if this takes place, you're more susceptible to experiencing the Mandela effect. And once again, here are some examples of that you may remember vividly and say, Matt, that's not true. How about Luke, I am your father? Many people misquote James Earl Jones. And the line actually is, no, I am your father, which is interesting. It wasn't Luke, I am your father. And I would have sworn, Luke, I am your father. No, I am your father. And that's what took place. How about Berenstein Bears? It was supposed to be Berenstein. I remember that absolutely, Berenstein, because it was hard to say. And many fans of this series who read these books remember the Bears family name as a Berenstein. But it's actually not. It's Berenstain. Berenstein. And it may sound like Berenstein Bears, but it is Berenstain. But we all pronounce it correctly. How about the Monopoly monocle on the Monopoly guy, one that I brought up but wasn't on Dan's show? Well, he never had a monocle. In fact, no, not at all. Now you might be thinking, well, I had the McDonald's Monopoly pieces. I played the game a million times. Of course he had a monocle. No, he didn't. Go look it up. I'm gonna let you do some of your own work on this. How about Play It Again, Sam, in Casablanca, or Casablanca, excuse me. But it wasn't. It was Ingrid Bergman's character, Elsa, who said, play it, Sam, not play it again, Sam. This is interesting. This is so insane, because I swear it's play it again, Sam, but it's play it, Sam. And this is the one that will blow doors, that everyone will flip out on, is the Shazam movie by Sinbad. We all remember Sinbad in the purple garb and the genie and the, banging the head and the Shazam with yellow lightning bolts. No, it's not true. Everyone who grew up in the 80s and 90s says that this movie's real, and where he played a magical character filling child's wishes. He never made a movie like this at all. Now, there are some things that can help with this process, and I'll tell you what they are. He used to dress super flamboyantly. He used to wear purple garb and such, and with big shoulder pads. And when he did his on-stage presence, he was in blue and purple and other colors, neon green and whatever. And that helps you kind of go, okay, well, now I see that. But then you have Shaquille O'Neal, who did a movie. And he did Shaq Fu, and then he did Shazam. And then you take Arsenio Hall and you put all three together, and you get this. Those memories were implanted based upon other characters. And when somebody says Shazam and the purple genie Sinbad, you remember certain portions of the costume and the little silly feet because you apply it with what a genie should look like. And then your brain fills in the gaps. So you might be saying to yourself, man, who cares? So what? This is stupid. What does this have to do with anything? Well, it has to do with a lot of things, especially when it comes to Dan and his point, and what they're trying to say on this show in regards to AI and artificial intelligence. There was a Super Bowl Alicia Keys, song that ultimately was altered, and people believe it's reality. Now, there are tests and experiments that will show, when it comes to priming and confabulation, that if I say a series of words like zebra, lion, hyena, rhinoceros, jaguar, and then I go ahead and repeat those and then ask you in which place was giraffe, there are people who will immediately jump. Don't you remember when they would say the word green, 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 when you were a kid, and then all of a sudden they said, okay, what color is a stoplight? And you're like, green, red. And that is repetition. And the neuron pathways of your brain are accessing information consistently. And then when you're asked a question, it just goes back to that firing point and repeats. So if there's information out there that's false, can this happen? Why is it that something like Sinbad happens with Shazam, but it doesn't happen with everything? Well, that's because people aren't taking advantage of it. And once they go ahead and plant that seed that there was a Sinbad movie by giving you a VHS tape or a photograph of him having blue lightning come out of his hands or purple lightning, immediately people say, see, there's proof. And then the phenomenon is people don't want to be wrong. That's the difference. That is the key that's not talked about. I've read everything about the Mandela effect. And the one thing they don't talk about is probable deniability, is people don't want to be wrong. And in today's society, there are consequences for being wrong. People such as myself, if I'm wrong, people won't come back and watch my show. You might have a job that you work at. And if you do something wrong, you might lose your job. You might be a person that's relied upon in getting things right. Could be a teacher. But whatever it is, there are consequences today for being wrong, especially in today's society where everybody's judgmental and everybody's waiting for you to be wrong. So when you couple that with artificial intelligence and people changing things and not having a source, a valid, one true source of information that is not only factual, but has been used with deductive reasoning, logic, and firsthand accounts and visual evidence outside of anecdotal evidence, exculpatory evidence, you can confirm those things. But now, most things are based on opinion. And with artificial intelligence, that is the creation of opinion. You have lines of code that are designed to search for information and to make some sort of comprehensible retort to your question. The problem is who creates the code? Who creates the algorithm? And are those biases transferred into the algorithm? And we've seen that with Google Gemini, with it being racist. Give me pictures of white people at a picnic. I'm sorry, I can't do that with white people. Give me pictures of black people at a picnic. And all of a sudden, everybody is eating outside on a picnic and they're African American. There were times I would ask the question, please show me great white presidents. I'm sorry, I can't break down presidents and political greatness by their color. Please show me great black politicians. And then boom, you see 30 of them. So once again, the algorithm is what decides what you hear, what you see, and honestly, what you believe. This is an amazing topic. I want to get your opinions. What do you think down below? We've just scratched on this. I want to talk about it more tonight because the implications are whoever controls the information ultimately controls the narrative. We know this. But now, the people with the smallest amount of control can alter the narrative on a global scale, and that is terrifying. It's kind of okay when our government lies to us. We expect them to do that. But when the modern day, everyday person with an axe to grind can lie to us and it can blow up and go viral overnight, that is an incredible amount of power. And the question is, do you regulate it or do you embrace it? It's an interesting point, folks. Would love to hear what your thoughts are. Do me a favor, Veteran Crisis Hotline, 988, then press 1. Dyslexia for Cure found. 22 veterans commit suicide a day. It's way too many. Do me a favor. Please share this number. If you can't make that call, you can reach out to me. I'll make it with you. I've done it plenty of times with veterans. We appreciate your service. We love what you have done for our country. You deserve the very best help possible. And this is the way you get started. Folks, we'll be back at 7 o'clock tonight. Thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me show, and we'll talk to you later.
Adjusting transmitter output. This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, Olivia, and Mike. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on the Spreely.tv network and all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.